Hey everyone, it's Melody Snowflake, and welcome to part 2 of my character analysis of Lapis Lazuli. This is a series where I talk about Lapis, go in depth in her character and motivations, and even address some misunderstandings that some people seem to have of her. I'll even talk about some things that I think Lapis must have been going through in certain times based off of the evidence we are given in the show. Basically, I'll be talking about her character and analyzing her based on what we know. Okay, before we begin, I'd like to say that if you haven't seen the first video I made on this topic yet, I highly recommend you check that one out first, as I won't be discussing the stuff I discussed there here. Also, if by the end of this video you don't agree with my opinions, it's okay, but please be nice about it in the comments. I've seen how crazy some opinion wars about Lapis can get. Please don't start another gem war in the comments section. Thank you. If your comments is disrupting the harmony or is basically causing chaos in there, I'll have to delete it. I'm so sorry. One last thing. If you guys haven't watched Steven Universe yet, I highly recommend you go watch that show first before you see this, because Lapis is a very important character to the plot, and talking about her will require me to spoil quite a huge chunk of the storyline for you. So yeah, spoiler warning is in order. If I stumble a little bit, you guys, it's because I don't really script this. I kind of have an outline of what I'm going to say, but I didn't really write it all down and script it, so I'm sorry if I stumble. Okay, all the boring stuff out of the way, let's get straight into it. The last time we talked about Lapis, we were discussing Jailbreak and how she was finally brave enough. She finally found the courage to stand up for herself and her friend after so many years of being used and imprisoned. But what was Lapis' stand on the matter? Whose side was she actually on? We'll need to cover that in order to understand the next few episodes, so let's backtrack just a little. In Mirror and Ocean Gem, Lapis was fighting the crystal gems in order to get away from Earth. However, she didn't seem to be fighting them in the name of Homeworld or for Homeworld. This is what leads me to believe that Lapis wasn't on anyone's side, because yes, she was fighting the crystal gems. She wanted to get away, and she didn't, as she said in Ocean Gem, she didn't really believe in what the crystal gems believe in. She didn't think the crystal gems cared about other gems, and that they only cared about the Earth, which she considered a prison. So she didn't side with the crystal gems in this season. But she didn't exactly side with Homeworld either, if you look at what happened in Jailbreak. And even if she did have some lingering loyalties to Homeworld back in Mirror and Ocean Gem, it was most definitely gone by Jailbreak after Peridot dragged her back to Earth and all that jazz happened. Plus, I really doubt that she had much loyalty left to Homeworld, if any at all, back in Mirror Gem, because of what the Homeworld gems did to her. They were the ones who put her in the mirror in the first place, after all. So, with that said, we can confirm that Lapis was neutral in both situations, in both Mirror and Ocean Gem and Jailbreak. The only reason she fought Jasper was because she wanted to protect Steven, who was her friend. She didn't fight for Steven because she sided with the crystal gems. She fought for Steven because he was a friend of hers. She didn't fight him because she was on the side of the crystal gems, at least not yet. So Lapis was basically neutral in Season 1. Okay, now moving on to Season 3 in Same Old World, we see more of this when she said she wanted to leave because she never belonged with the crystal gems. But then she realized she couldn't go back to Homeworld either because of what happened between her and Jasper. She had no idea what Homeworld would do to her if they found out, but she knew it wouldn't be good, so she knew she couldn't go back. In her conversation with Steven, we can tell that she doesn't feel like she could go back to Homeworld, and she felt like she couldn't stay on Earth either because Earth was her prison. But with some persuasion, and after showing her a bit of the planet, Steven managed to convince her to stay. Lapis decided that she was going to live in the barn, and that's when she ran into Peridot, who she had no idea had a redemption arc while she was gone. During the time Lapis was trapped underwater, Peridot had been shown the beauty of Earth and had basically been redeemed. However, Lapis had no idea that any of this had ever happened. In fact, for all Lapis knew, Peridot was still a villain. Peridot was still the gem who dragged her back to Earth. When Peridot tried to explain to Lapis that she had changed, Lapis, who didn't have any proof that she had changed, just couldn't trust her. In the episode Barmates, she was acting really cold and distant to Peridot despite all of Peridot's sincere efforts to try and make up to her. People seem to condemn Lapis for this, but we can't really blame her, as Peridot, as Lapis put it, was the one who dragged her back to Earth. Like I said in my previous episode, that would be important. And having just gotten out of captivity and being dragged back again, Lapis probably did not think too kindly of Peridot. So, without knowing for sure that Peridot had changed, she just couldn't trust her, because the last time she saw Peridot, as Stephen put it, wasn't so okay. That's a very light way of saying they basically weren't on the best of terms. Lapis basically didn't like Peridot, and she couldn't trust her because of what Peridot did. And even though Peridot had changed and was trying her best, Lapis just couldn't be sure of that. It was not until Lapis saw that Peridot was genuinely afraid of Homeworld coming after her that she realized that maybe Peridot wasn't a threat anymore after all, that maybe she really has switched sides. This is why when the spaceship arrived, Lapis managed to rescue her, because she realized that Peridot was no longer a threat. She found it in her heart to think, okay, maybe she really has changed, Lapis realized, the word I'm looking for is realized. Lapis realized that Peridot was probably not a threat. Otherwise, why would Homeworld be coming after her? Now let's go to Hit the Diamond. Wait a minute, Melody, Hit the Diamond? That's not a Lapis episode. True, but there has been some people talking about how her transition from not trusting Peridot in Barmaids to being good friends with her in Beta seemed a little bit too sudden. And I think I found the answer to that in Hit the Diamond. In Hit the Diamond, after the baseball game, the others were fighting the Rubies as the Rubies realized that they weren't really humans and they were actually gems. But Peridot, who could not stand to see her friends fighting for her, came out of her hiding spot and defended them, saying that she would not let her friends fight her battles and that she wanted the Rubies to just take her instead. She didn't want her friends to get hurt because of her. This showed Lapis, who was there at the scene, that Peridot was not just someone who was no longer a threat, and not who's no longer a threat and worth rescuing, but also that Peridot was someone who was loyal. Peridot, in doing so, showed Lapis that she was a loyal friend who would stand up for her friends in danger. And this was, I think, what set the building blocks for Lapis beginning to actually trust Peridot as a friend. This is how I feel they were able to strike up a friendship from that point on. This is how I think they were able to actually find common ground and eventually become the friends they did in Beta. And now we are going to talk about the final episode that we'll address in this part 2 of the series. And this episode seemed to have sparked quite a bit of debate about Lapis too. And this episode is Alone at Sea. Okay, let's start from the very beginning. In Alone at Sea, Stephen invited Lapis for a boat trip out to enjoy herself, as she had been stressing over water because she didn't want to go out and face the water after the whole experience with Jasper, and also because Stephen just wanted to cheer her up because she's been really upset lately, traumatized with the whole Malachite incident and everything. She's just been stressed out and she didn't want to be around water, but Stephen encouraged her to do that. And for most of it, we can see that Lapis is trying her best to enjoy herself, but she seemed to be afraid of being put in charge and stuff like that because of all that she's been through. She didn't think she was worth being trusted with things, especially with the boat and with people's safety. So Stephen told her that, no pressure, let's just enjoy ourselves today. From this, we can see that Lapis is scared to take control of situations, even though she wants to, as we can tell from previous episodes. She has this vulnerable side of her. Even Rebecca Sugar herself put it, that said that her gem was on her back because she was a vulnerable person. There are bits of herself that other people can see, but she just can't. Anyway, I'm sidetracking. Back to Alone at Sea. Later on, when the boat stopped working, Lapis blamed herself for all the mishaps that happened. She said that she was the one to blame and that she was trying her best to enjoy herself, but she just couldn't stop thinking of Malachite and how she used all her strength to hold her down, how she was always battling against Jasper to keep her bound to her. Stephen comforts her by saying, "It's not like that anymore. You don't have to be with Jasper." This is where Lapis said, "It's not that. I miss her." This is the part that seems to get some people confused. The first thing that comes to mind is a toxic relationship, which is basically true. The thing is, what Lapis really missed about Jasper was not Jasper herself. When Lapis first fused with Jasper to protect Stephen and to say, "You are not going to use me anymore," she basically let out all that anger, all that pain, and all that hurt in one epic move of defiance. All of it converged in one. Lapis basically let it all out on Jasper. She basically said, "You're not going to use me anymore. I'm not going to let it happen to me again." And all of that determination, all of that feeling of not wanting to be used anymore converged into one ball of energy. She used that as well as the determination to protect Stephen, to hold Jasper down, to restrain her so she wouldn't hurt her again and hurt anyone else for that matter. All of that hurt, all of that pain she had been enduring, all of that she has been holding in, finally let itself loose when she held Jasper in place, when she restrained Jasper. It was the first time Lapis was actually able to let out all of her emotions. Sure, it was an unhealthy way of doing it, but it was still the first time nonetheless. She had been holding it in for so long, and when she finally fought back, all of that came out. And Lapis missed that. Plus, being fused with Jasper for so long, it just probably felt a little bit strange being unfused. She just missed that feeling, that sensation of being able to let it all go. But that quickly changed when Jasper appeared, and Lapis found herself being scared. She also knew that it was a bad experience for Jasper, and she was worried about what Jasper would do to her. When Jasper said, "I thought I was a brute, but you're a monster," Lapis realized that what Jasper was referring to was the raw energy she had used to hold her down. Then she realized that what she was actually missing about Jasper all this time was the sensation, and that was fueled by anger, and that wasn't healthy. She shouldn't be missing that. She shouldn't be missing venting her anger out. So when Jasper asked to be Malachite again, Lapis was confused. Why would Jasper want this? It was a bad experience for her. And Jasper tried to explain that fusion was what got them to be more powerful, that she was wrong about fusion. Lapis told Jasper that she was terrible to her. From Jasper's point of view, she knew she was terrible to her. And then she explained how she had missed taking out her anger, how she liked taking it all out on Jasper, how it probably felt good, how she needed to take it all out on Jasper, and then she emphasized how she hated Jasper and that it was bad to miss such a thing. Jasper says, "It'll be better this time. I've changed. You changed me." But at this point, Lapis knew. She realized that what she had missed about Jasper was just a sensation. It wasn't Jasper herself. She didn't want to feel that way anymore. It wasn't healthy. It wasn't good. So she said, "No, what we had wasn't healthy. I never want to feel like I felt with you ever again. So just go." This is when Jasper blames Stephen for Lapis refusing and threatens to shatter him. This is when Lapis gets on the defensive, and just like in Jailbreak, she defended herself and Stephen by punching Jasper back in the ocean. Don't forget that Lapis punched Jasper because Stephen was in danger. She was doing it to protect him and also to get Jasper away from her. Lapis did not just punch Jasper out of spite, as some people seem to think. She was punching Jasper out of self-defense and also to protect Stephen. Once again, Lapis was able to see through Jasper's manipulative efforts. She realized that it wasn't power she wanted, she just missed the sensation, and that it was wrong to miss venting her anger out. And let's just clarify here. She knew that she had every right to fight back. She just knew it was wrong it was unhealthy to miss venting out all her anger, and that's why she said no to Jasper. She didn't want power. She just wanted to, have that feeling of being able to let it all out. And she knew that that particular way of doing it wasn't healthy. And that's why she said no to Jasper. Okay, that's all I'm going to cover in this episode. I'm really sorry if I stumbled on my words quite a bit, but thank you so much for listening. Once again, if you don't agree, please be nice about it in the comments section. Thank you so much once again, and I'll see you in part 3. Goodbye!